Alrighty, so we're on spring break, but as I'd said, my goal was actually to get as much through as my time would allow through this section that we're on, right? So this is the section 11, and we change from learning how to do CRUD operations with MongoDB to learning how to use Mongoose for validating and sanitizing data. And we learn the basic, C for create. We'll learn the rest of those later. But for this first section that I just finished and gave some thought to, I thought, you know what? I should stop here and actually think about what I'd want you to do here. And so I've done that. I have it here, which is in the class, of course, and I want you to design your collections, right? Um, our database is in this case we have collections, right? We've discussed this. He's shown us the examples, right, of the idea of a collection. I was actually looking for the one I had a minute ago. So actually, let's do this. I think there should be one for collections. There we go. That's one. It's not the one I had before, but then inside of the collections we have the documents, right? So I thought, what I want you to do now is I want you to give some thought to your project, last develop it, right? And for that, I want you to go ahead and create what your data design is going to be, right? And again, this could change. That's okay. But I want you to have, and here are my requirements, right? At least 2 collections that you would want and hope to implement. Again, we'll talk about this as we get further into this, but for this assignment, I want you to have at least 2. And the reason I say 2 is that it kind of makes sense that you'll definitely want more than one. Whether we end up implementing all of these, we'll see, because we're not going to do the next section, which is going to be the user authentication. But regardless of where we end up, I want you to think about what you would want your data, what data collection, what's your design going to be. And the other thing is I said at least 5 key value pairs, and I'll have you do this in the object notation. So let me show you how I did this. And I want you to do this in your private repos, and you can name it whatever you want. Database design probably makes sense, and then provide us a link here. And in your markdown, I want you to give us an overview of your project and your data needs. So I did one just as a quick example, right? So here's your overview, your database design, and then I did one because mine is, the idea of one aspect of Bitcoin is the open ledger. So that's what I did for my develop it one. So in order to do that, I'd want to have member information, and I'd want to have transaction information. So in this case, we're not creating the model, something we did, but you are in a sense, because you're saying you're identifying the data types. There's different tools that are available to us, but I don't want to make this complicated. More than anything, I just want you to think about this idea. And actually, there's something in here we're not doing, which is connecting these two. And we'll talk about that again as we move on through the course, because right now, the way I've designed this, there's no connector between the 2 collections that I have. But regardless of that, I still want you to think through at least 2. And, it should be, some of you will easily get more than 2 out of this, right? And I'm using date and string and then number and then Boolean. So these are data types that we've talked about that you could use. And all I've done here is backticks in order to have them show up in this. And actually, I could do it like this. I could just say members equals, right? I could do it like that. That'd be okay too. But then I'd want to do, if I'd want to do that, I'd want to do const, right? So I'm like, okay, let's keep this simple. So therefore, the reason I did it. But you can play with this, do it the way you want. But again, the more you've given this thought, the easier the next steps will become. And all this is leading to our develop at 5, right? So I'm going to hold off adding more to development 5 until I get through the next section. And what I mean by that is because now that I've finished this, I'm going to move on to how he's going to structure the API. This is cool because it's just installing Postman, but then we're creating a couple of our endpoints here. Okay. So I'm just going to hold off again and adding anything yet until I have a little more context about how he's creating these things. Because again, we have a change of content. I saw how he did this last time, and I don't want to move forward until I see how he implements it this time. But I can also see some of this is not necessarily creating the endpoints. It's just using promises, promise chaining, async await, integrating that into creating the rest of the endpoints, right? So, but no big deal. So for this one, I want you to, in your markdown, like I said, and the overview is really, what are you going to implement for your Dev 5? What is your topic, right? What is the goal of what you're trying to create, right? So give us some content, right? Some context, some content for your overview, and then why you've chosen what you have. So that's what I want you to do. Put it out on GitHub, give us a link. You can say anything in the reply here that you feel like you want to add to the content that you've already provided. And that would be it. So hope you have a good break. I think you may hear from me at least one more time because I'll actually look at creating the next one because I know I am sure I will get through week 16 as well. And so I'll have that one set up and I hope I get through the rest of it. All right. Have a great break and I'll talk to you soon.